So I'm Kate Castle with Flybridge Capital Partners. First, thank you guys for coming. This is fantastic to see so many people here. I've done this in smaller group settings. This is probably the largest group I've had, so we'll see how this goes. I personally like to keep this really interactive. I don't want to talk to you guys to slides. I think all of you are probably dealing with different challenges in your own way, and what I found from these is, every situation is different. So we've probably seen a lot of what you guys have gone through, and so feel free to interrupt us, throw out what you're feeling, what your pain is right now, what you're wondering questions, and we can try to take you through it. If it's not something we think we can do in a larger group setting, we can also do follow-ons later and one-on-ones. But, and so I'll let Jodi go ahead and actually quickly I'll give a guest a little background. So in my role at Flybridge, I spend probably half my time working with the companies we invest in. We do seed and early stage investing. We've got about 46 active investments right now. And when we make the investment, I'll dig in with the company. A lot of times it's two founders. There is no marketing, on board, and I can go in and help them announce their funding, figure out what their strategy should be over the next, 60, 90, 120 days, figure out who the resources are that they should be working with to help them do that, and then work on projects along the way. And so with that, over the past, I've been there 8 years now, I've seen a lot of different things, and this is my favorite part of the job, because this is where you actually get to start early and, help people out, and hopefully there'll be lots of success stories out of here.
There's so much more to you, though. There's so much more to her. She's giving you a little nugget of what she does. My name is Jodi-Tatiana Charles. I am a brandographer. A brandographer is a choreographer to my clients' brands, and I trademarked it. So it's one of those moments where when you do something and you want to actually create that whole entire story behind it, trademark it. Don't be ashamed to trademark it. My background is very... I basically do the same exact thing, but I've been very lucky to do it for a lot of amazing people. I was Maddie in the Morning's producer for 6 years at Kiss 108. For anyone that's here, it's the #1 station in Boston. It's been the #1 station in Boston for close to 27 years now. It's the only station that's still in existence in the country after Howard Stern annihilated every single local radio program. Then I became a television producer for a news radio program, a news television program that covers all of New England cable news, which is called NECN, so you can hear the acronyms. From there, I was recruited, and I've been recruited from one place to another. I became Governor Romney's press secretary for 3.5 years, so I went from the side of being full-on media and talking bad about politics, and now having to be on the other side of politics and having to defend everything that we do, which was very interesting. And then went to business school, started my company. I went to Babson, and one of the things that I enjoyed the most was being with entrepreneurs and seeing how you guys were like the thought process of developing your company, trying to get yourself out there to the community. And a lot of things that were missing were the marketing and media aspect that I have been doing for my entire career. So I basically work solely with entrepreneurs and startups, as well as boutique companies that don't ever, they don't focus on their marketing until the last moment. And so it's fun for me to actually be able to develop their stories with them.
Great. So now you guys know a little bit about us. We want to just get kind of a perspective about who's in the audience here today. How many of you guys are students? How many of you are working on companies right now?
Love it.
Excellent. Other?
Alums just coming to see because you're curious.
Yeah, why are you here?
I was interested in the topic.
Can you stand up?
Yep, sorry.
Hi, I was interested in knowing more about how marketing works for startups.
Okay, great, excellent. Anybody else? No one else is going to admit. Oh, good.
Hi, I worked in startup companies before, so I'm working still very interested.
Perfect, great. So first, we'll go into this quickly. We want a couple volunteers in terms of what are some of the challenges you guys are facing with marketing and why you came here today. So if there's a couple people that want to stand up, if not, we can cold call.
Cold calling is really uncomfortable.
They're used to it.
Anyone? One problem.
Young lady with the glasses. Come on up, stand up.
Well, okay. So I think there's a lot of resources available about marketing. It would be great to kind of have a framework or a way to think about all of the different pieces, where do they fit in.
Where they fit in. And what are you working on right now?
I'm working on a company. I just finished startup.
Okay. Great. All right, so for our first person who actually answered, we do have prizes.
It's a fun prize. This is so practical, too.
Koozie. All right. So why don't we can go in here, and then hopefully more people will interrupt along the way if you want your goodies.
If you have questions along the way, please feel free to raise your hand, chime in. I mean, you don't have to actually just listen to us talk. We're here for you. So if there's something that catches your attention, please feel free to raise your hands.
Great. So we couldn't do just 10, so we had to do 10 plus things. It's hard to keep to 10. First one, lay a solid foundation. There's a lot of work you can do before you even start thinking about launching your company, when you actually need to start marketing it. And you've got a lot of time, and so there's this foundational work that you should be doing along the way in the beginning.
One of the biggest things is focus on what's that pain point. You decide to start a company. What is that pain point that you want to solve? And from that point on, start talking to people in your community that are dealing with the same pain point. That is literally the base of your foundation.
Yep. And then from that pain point, you figure out, okay, who's your user? Mm-hmm. What's the user case around that? As Jodi said, focus groups are going to be key. Talk to as many people as you can to figure out really who that user is. That's the basis in terms of where you're going to start building from around that. Following that, then you need to start thinking about, okay, what is my positioning and messaging, and who am I, and what am I actually delivering? It's hard as a startup. I will tell you, you guys probably at some point, if you haven't already, are going to pivot and change and along the way. And so you always have to be sort of nimble and think about when you need to change your message. But there should be a key message point, and it doesn't need to be long. It's the 15-second, 20-second elevator pitch of who you are, what you do, who your customer is, that you can deliver no matter who the audience is, whether that's an investor you're talking to, whether it's a potential employee you're talking to, a journalist, anybody.
And I'll add to that. So Kate had her 3. I'm going to sit there and throw out my 3. One of the things that I'm always looking for when I'm meeting a team, focus on what's the pain point, who's out there that is doing it, that's not nailing it, and how are you better? Okay, so you have 6 now that you should have in every conversation. And I always add in that it should be in 1, 3, and 5, meaning that 1 minute I'm at a bar, I'm talking to someone in quick conversation, I put it out there. 3 minutes because they were so interested in the fact that that 1 minute pitch was really great. 3 minutes, they've taken you out in the hall. 5 minutes, they've invited you for a cup of coffee. 10 minutes, that's a full-on pitch, and you're now in their office.
So you have to have different versions of that that are clear and concise. Create a worksheet for yourself and sit down or whiteboard it out. And this is what I'll do with our companies. I'll go into them and I'll put on a whiteboard. Who are we? What do we do? What is the solution we actually solve? Who is this for? Through these things, come up with and bring in people from outside the company too, because that's where you're going to get. They'll say, I don't quite get that. Wait a minute, you're doing what? And so, or people that are working in the companies. You've got developers. Everybody actually has a different opinion, and so I think getting that, and then you have to boil it down to something that people are comfortable with that makes sense.
One of the things that I enjoy doing is the tester. So it's like the triangle for me, where once you have your idea down, or you feel really good about it, you've answered our questions. So now you're going to go out there and test it, not to your audience yet, but you're going to just test it within. So you want to go to a cousin or a niece or a child in your life between the ages of 5 and 10 and explain it to them. Then you want to go to an elderly between 75 and 80, 90, depending on how your genes are. So you want to go to someone older and explain it to them, because now, mind you have 2 different audiences. Then you want to go to someone that's from the international descent, so someone that's not from this country, and you have to explain it to them, or not from your original country. So that's a triangle in regards of if every single category understands it, you're getting so close to nailing it.
It's a good way. I'd never thought about that way. This past weekend, I spent the weekend. My niece, who was 7 years old, asked me what I did, and I was trying to explain venture capital to her. And it was a very interesting conversation. So,
we have a question over here.
Oh, yeah.
Can you stand up, please? I'll ask everyone to stand up so I can see your faces.
I have a question about customers. So some people are probably working on marketplaces where you're connecting group A to group B, and they have different pain points and they're different types of people. Would you, if that's the case for you, would you recommend picking one that's your primary customer and then centering everything around that, around that group with your marketing, or trying to be two different things, or having two different types of pieces? How would you think about that?
This is, again, one of these where every scenario is different.
Yeah.
Typically, what I find and what I tell our companies is if you're a small, lean startup and you've got limited resources, I would start with the one that's probably going to have the biggest business impact for you initially. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean you're going to totally forget it, but focus. One of the slides later is focus, focus, focus. And so, that's where you need to really put your energies initially on the primary message. You can always have secondary messages around it. There's a lot of initial on, especially during this laying the foundation, where there's testing going on. So, you can do this stuff before you officially launch and figure out where it is. But across the board, I really push people to say, what is it that's going to have the biggest impact on your business? And is that customer acquisition? Is that getting the great PR story that's actually going to drive partnerships or sales, or is it recruitment, or whatever your goal is, then you need to develop it around that.
I agree 120%, where know your demo and just focus on that demo. Think about the iPad. The iPad was designed for college students between 18 and 22, but grandma uses it, and mom and dad use it, or your little sister uses it. Everyone uses it, but the target was solely for that age range. So start with your demo, and then you could actually spider out.
And you might find in some different surprising places too. Suddenly you're like, whoa, wait a minute,
Never thought about this.
And never thought about this, and that's where you're going to need to then be able to be like, okay, we've got something going on here, and time to start working on a program around that. But initially, I think you need to have a focus and before expanding out. So take it slow and then grow. So some other key things, and this is just, I'm going to throw in some ideas here along the way because it's just things I see with the companies we invest in all the time. One thing I think a lot of companies don't do is they don't put a whole lot of thought into their name. Mm-hmm. Or they come up with a name and they think, okay, well, maybe I could get the domain name or maybe I can't. And they go out and they secure their funding, and the funding announcement goes out that, great, you've gotten $5 million, and then 2 days later you get served with an injunction that, in fact, you don't legally have the right to use that name because somebody else is using it in your space. And the funding is often what will trigger that. You've suddenly got some money and somebody sees an opportunity that, wow, this is a company that does something that's similar, and there's an opportunity to stop you from using it. And time again, they've launched under a company name, and now, crap, we've got to change this and do it fast. And so I think spend time, and often it's worth spending a couple legal dollars to actually do sort of a copyright run through trademark to make sure it's an actual, because people think, oh, well, the domain name's available, then I can use it. And I would do a trademark search just to really make sure that it is.
If you're low on funds, do your due diligence. We live in the world of Google, and because we live in the world of Google, you can actually do any search in any country, and you can pretty much find out what you have to work with. It does surprise me each and every single time with the resources that we have that people aren't using Google, and they're like, well, this is a name that I'm passionate to. I'm like, it's great that you're passionate to it, but you can't use it. And it's just it is really a lot more work when you have to actually backtrack. You have all the funding, you have so many people are on board, and they've adopted the name, and now you have to change it. And so you've started getting the community excited, and now they're like, oh, what are you guys again? What? You changed the name again? What? So take the time literally during this foundation moment, take the time, dig. If you feel that there's a couple names that you're not quite sure if it's a little gray area, talk to a lawyer. And there are a lot of lawyers that are out there that will do things pro bono for you. A lot of lawyers in this town are very supportive of entrepreneurs. They're not going to do everything for you for free, but they are very supportive in regards of giving you a couple of things for free.
How would you recommend finding those resources for lawyers who are trying to do this legal work, bootstrapping?
We're at Harvard. Harvard Law is awesome. When I started my company, I went right to them because one of my SBA advisors said, the Harvard is right there, and they provide great services. Hi! I go, I'm sure they would come here and actually talk to you guys, and then you could do one-on-ones. But they're fantastic over there. The students are the ones that are actually doing all the work, but there's not one thing that goes to the door without them being checked. I'm giving props and the kudos right there.
I would, it's funny, we're going to go into some of those other things, but talk to people around you too, and they'll have a lot of great ideas. Even if you don't have funding from an investor, I'm always willing to talk to people and answer questions around this stuff. part of my job is I try to hook up our companies with more of the consultants, and I know they have limited budgets, and so I have a network of people that often I can just say, this is the right person for you to talk to on this, or here's an independent lawyer that works for himself that does this. We changed our name, and we actually, used for actually the copyright stuff, a guy that specialized in it had left a firm, and did the work for us on it. And so I think there's a lot of, the slide later says skip the yellow pages in terms of partners and who you're going to work with, and a lot of it's just who other people have had good experiences with. And I think there's great people, and then obviously places like this. Yeah. I think a lot of the law firms too are doing office hours at various places around the city where you can go in and get some free legal advice.
I have to say that one of the things that you should be very aware of, there's so many events for entrepreneurs. Look to see who's sponsoring, because those are the individuals that want to work with you. There would definitely be a lot of law firms that you may just want to engage with. Someone gave you a name, like a family member, but if they don't understand the world of entrepreneurs, it's going to be very tough. If they don't specialize in IPs or things, it's going to be very tough for them to actually have to learn it and then try to help you. Work with the individuals that are already out there, like focusing only on entrepreneurs.
So another thing in terms of laying the foundation is, a question I'm sure at some point people will ask, and we're going to talk about how you do it later, which is, well, how do I know who's covering my space? And how do I know who I should be when I'm ready to launch, but who do I go to in terms of journalists? Spend the time now actually developing those lists. And there's lots of tactics, but you want to go out there and figure out, okay, how do I do this? Well, look on Twitter, do keyword searches, see who's covering your competitors, or tangential people. Start a spreadsheet. I mean, get an Excel spreadsheet. Every single time there's an article, write the reporter's name down. It's really easy on the internet to figure out what their Twitter handle is or what their email address is through there. And that way, when you're ready to launch, you have all that work done. If you can't afford a PR agency or a consultant to work with, you at least have your contact list of the people that are covering this market and care about it. The same sense, once you do have your name, make sure you go secure all of your channels across every social media outlet you can imagine. You may not think you're going to use it. You could say, well, I'm never going to have Pinterest. You may one day. You don't know. And somebody else could have taken your handle for that. Or somebody could have taken your Twitter handle, or whatever it is. And so go register just as you would your domain name. If you've got your name, get as many as you can across the different social media platforms, because it could come in handy later.
Can you stand up?
Can I say hi? So for Twitter, someone did have the handle that we wanted, and I don't think we can purchase.
So Twitter's actually an interesting one, because if the person's not active on it, which means I don't know the exact time frame, but if you haven't posted in a certain amount of time, you can request from Twitter that it's an inactive and get it. If they have been active in it, you can't. And I haven't seen a second market for Twitter handles.
No.
Certainly there's a market for domain names. If someone has your domain name, there is a price you can pay. Yeah. And there are strategies around that too. I would never let somebody know if you've already received funding that you're looking for this and you have money. Make it I'm the poor student that's, give the sob story. So, but that one, Twitter is one where if you do secure it, one thing you do need to do is then make sure you're at least putting some content out there a little bit to make sure that you stay in an active position and you just don't go inactive on it.
For those that don't know, if you're on Facebook more than Twitter, they can connect. So can your LinkedIn. So if you're one of those individuals that feels that I don't have time to do all, they can link. And you could actually post on one, and they go to everywhere. And there's Hootsuite, and we'll talk about that. But there's so many different ways, because too many people are just focused on the fact that you're only in one channel. There's so many more channels that are out there, and you could actually really be active to different audiences. So keep that in mind.
Anything else in terms of foundation work?
Ready to launch.
All right. Where did the thing go? Did I drop it? All right. So the next one, don't rush to launch. The biggest thing I see happen is people come to us and we've invested in them and say, okay, we need to launch. And they think they need to launch because they've secured funding. And I always say, wait a minute, what is your reason to launch? And sometimes they say, well, I need to hire a team, and the only way I'm going to do that is if people know who we are and what we do. Or some people say I need customers, or around that. And so, there is a time. My advice always is really you only want to ever launch once. You really should only launch once, which is why if you've laid the right foundation, you should have a lot of those key components in place, and then know you're at the right stage to do it. Now, it might be that some people are earlier, some people are later, but usually you want to know that you're far enough along, you've got some customers that you can provide, because the press are going to ask, okay, well, who's using this initially? Or have you been in a beta, along the way? And then, the funding certainly is another driver around it. You can, what I tell companies, you can announce funding without having to launch your company. There's ways you can do that. You have to be a little bit more, press don't want to hear necessarily, well, great, you announced funding, but we don't know what you do. So you have to have at least a high enough what space you're in, the market you're in, to give them the story. You're not going to probably get a ton of coverage, but you can go out there and do it. And in fact, when you get funding, you actually need to announce it, because there's a trigger that happens within 15 days of getting funding. You will have to file a document called a Reg D form. That's a public filing with the SEC. And all the journalists these days follow those. And so if you look at most of the press, they have a Reg D filings of the day. And so it's all the companies that haven't announced, but the filing went through. And so it will be public out there whether you want. Now, if you want to stay quiet and you don't want to say anything, you can just let that go. The only information they're going to have in there is they're going to have how much the full round was and who your board members are. That's it. They don't even have the names of the firms. So if you got money from angels or anybody else, that's not going to be in there. It's only if you actually have board members. And they typically will then try to call the firms if they see a board member and, make sure if everyone around you knows your plan. Because if I don't know that you guys want to stay quiet and, Scott Kirshner, who's coming here next week, calls me and says, hey, Kate, I saw that you guys just invested in X company. I need to know, wait a minute, these guys don't want me talking to him right now, or don't say anything. And, my response, if you guys do want to stay quiet at that point, is, great, Scott, great to hear from you. At this point, company's not saying anything, but when they're ready to talk, we'll make sure to reach out to you. Journalists are willing, totally, used to hearing that.
One of my biggest pain points for any company is literally when you launch. And as an entrepreneur, you guys are excited. You're jazzed. You really want to get out there, which is fantastic. But then my role comes in because it's damage control. The damage control comes in where you're excited, you launch, you want to get media. Media's out there, you're getting tons of press, and then every customer out there wants it. They want it now, and guess what? It doesn't exist because you are in testing mode. You're collecting data. You are waiting for the FDA to file and make sure that your medical device is ready to go. And then all of a sudden, that customer that was excited, they want it, they're like, oh, it's not, what? What do you mean I can't get it? And then they're gone. And now your competitor heard and saw and realized, hey, they're not ready. We will be, and we're not going to talk to the press. We're not going to talk to the community until we're ready. And now all that work that you've done is down the toilet. And so then you hire me to fix the problem. It's so much more work to fix the problem than just to be patient. And I know you guys are working really hard and you're really diving in and you want everyone to know about it. Great. Tell your mom and dad. Tell your friends. It's okay. Don't tell the world yet until you know you are ready.
Yeah.
Get all the advisors on board, and as soon as every advisor that you have, that you believe in and they believe in you, signs off, then you can go live. But don't do it.
Sorry,
Don't be sorry.
It's so interesting, though, because everything you hear these days about internet companies is to quickly launch an MVP and iterate. It's like the opposite these days of what we hear.
How long do those companies last?
Well, I think some of them last a long time.
Like?
I mean, years.
Which ones?
I would imagine stuff like, if you just read Lean Startup. Are you saying you don't agree with Lean Startup? Oh, interesting. That's interesting.
Oh, I agree with Lean Startup.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
I agree with Lean Startup. Yeah.
And it's really hard to figure out where to go with it, honestly.
Yeah.
And also things like when you launch your MVP, who do you broadcast it to? Just seriously, close friends and family, people you get on SEO,
I think number one, you need to be.
Good question.
Sorry. So she said that in today. Do you want to stand up and repeat?
That is
There's a
another
lot
reason
of
why you're
questions,
standing up,
yes.
not just because
Yeah.
you're projecting.
Yeah.
That's why.
Okay, yeah, just that I feel like nowadays we're really encouraged to actually launch quickly.
Yeah.
And I see that a lot in terms of like when you start up, get an MVP out there and just iterate rather than creating something really perfect that you think people want, launching it, finding out people actually didn't want it.
So there's, I mean, there is a philosophy that failure, and there is some failure that is okay, I think, around it. I think that's one thing we've been encouraged people, entrepreneurs, is it's okay to fail, which it is okay
Absolutely.
to fail. You know, one thing that I see is, number one, no matter what you're doing, don't lie. Too many companies will say that they have offerings available, and they're not when they launch. And so if it's not available and it's not publicly going to be available to X date, then let people know that up front. You know, we're going to go ahead and get launched because we want to get ahead of the curve. This is what we are going to be doing, and it will be available in X. We're in beta now. Or we're in alpha now, or we're going into beta, and we'll be accepting and what the process is, and be 100% clear. And I think that people will be forgiving and press. You do have a story to tell around that. But, you know, when you start going out and saying we've launched and we're available and there's actually nothing there,
That's a problem.
then that's just vaporware, and it means you're trying to get out ahead of the curve when there's actually nothing there.
But that's not what lean startups saying to do at all. They're just saying that you put out the most like minimal product.
Yep.
You're soft launching.
It's a beta community.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a beta. I mean, it's a beta, and you can beta launch.
Yeah.
I think you want to. So if you're in beta, and there's different things. Some people want to go out full bail when they're in beta, and other people don't. What I think is frustrating to press is to say we're in beta, but we're in stealth, and that happens a lot. We don't want to talk to but if you're
That is a big way. There's a huge way of being on a blacklist of a media person.
If you're in beta, and you're out there publicly in a forum talking to people and bloggers are involved, it's out there, and you should be willing to talk to a journalist about what you're doing right then. If you want to be in stealth, then where you don't want the press talking about you right now, then you really shouldn't, sort of be broadly. You need to keep your beta really, really tight. Really, really tight.
One of the companies that I'm working with is they're in beta in another country, in a small country where they know that there's not a lot of media attention. So they're still getting the testing, and they're doing a lot of the work, but it's not in the States, and it's not in any major area where the entrepreneurial ecosystem is large. So they can still actually get that information that they're needing to do. And their biggest thing is they are in stealth, but they need that information from the community, but they also know that the community can talk.
And there are times you're going to be, people feel like they do need to rush to launch for competitive reasons. And at times like that, then you might have to do it and pull things. But I still would tell people, if you're unsure of some of the foundational work that we just talked about before, that's not done, I would not tell you to go out and push it out the door when you haven't, figured out if the name works, figure out, some of those basic things just to push something out the door.
Yep. Back there?
Yep.
My question is,
Can you talk a little louder, too?
yeah, my question is in regards to somebody else, like, launching it for you through like a leak that you didn't really intend for it to get out there, and you didn't intend to launch, but somebody really liked your idea and it got out, and somehow it leaked, and then you receive a lot of press coverage, and then what do you tell them? Like, hey, I don't know who leaked it,
It happens a lot. I mean, this is where if you're in a closed beta and people do start talking about it, it gets out there, or an investor or somebody, somebody leaks it, a friend even to somebody else. Press, if a journalist hears it, you don't have to talk to press. I mean, that's probably one of the worst reasons to launch, is because a journalist calls you.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised how many people get the phone call and they're like, shit, Wall Street Journal's on the line, I need to talk, and I need to talk to him now. So what do I say?
You say nothing.
You don't have to talk to a journalist ever. Journalists are used to hearing, you know what, thanks so much for your phone call. We'll be in touch when we have something to say.
avoid no comment.
Yeah, no comment is
Don't
not
say
something
that.
I would use.
Avoid that. We'll get into that, but just don't say no comment.
You know, and it's all about, with journalists, it's maintaining relationships, and you want to be friendly, and, you know, hey, so-and-so, want to be super helpful to you. We're not at a point where we're ready to start talking about it, but in a couple months when we are, you're number one on my list, then I'm going to give you a call back. I would never, unless you can stick to it, say, you were the only person I'm going to call back, because then it really limits you that you would have to give that person exclusive. But, you know, you could say, you're the top person I'm going to call back, or you're one of a handful of people I will call as soon as we're ready and we have the story to tell you. If you've laid the foundation well and you've started to, during the foundational part, start building relationships with some of these reporters by getting out at conferences and interacting with them and posting on their blogs and following them on Twitter and getting to know who they are, then, you know, when that phone call comes in and they say, hey, Scott, you're working on this great new company, and, you know, I met you last week, or whatever, I've known you over the past couple months, it's an easier then also opportunity to be like, listen, just not ready, hold off. But when you are ready, then you can reach out. Hey.
I would say that everything that's been asked here so far, the answer is everything depends on everything. There are no quick, easy answers.
Yep.
And if you think that you're getting, you know, the advice that they're talking about up here for your concept, that's not really correct.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking very, 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 very generally. If you went to speak to the Harvard Business School Association of Boston, which is not that hard to do, by the way, if you went to speak to them because you have the best new mousetrap or the best new energy source or device or whatever it might be, every person who's there who is an investor, if they like what you say, in fact, people who are operating executives are going to go straight back to their offices. They're going to start Googling you and Googling the market that you're in if they're interested in it. And if they're very large, like the Bank of America or GE or a large trading company out of Hong Kong, if they're interested in your idea, they're going to go, what a great idea. I'm glad she told me about it. And they may very well go out and replicate your idea. In fact, in an unusual case, they may hire you to work on it and to do a market study on it. So be really careful. It can be very flattering for a reporter to call you and say, I hear you're hot, you know, tell me about it. I'd really like to write this up, put it in the paper next Tuesday. Well, next Tuesday is for their benefit. It's not for your benefit. So be very careful. The other thing that I would add is that all these things sound like, and this is the way you have to do presentations. Number one, lay the foundation. Number two, don't rush the launch. And there will be a 3, 4, and 5, I guess. These things are not
15. No.
One of the hardest things to do is to do a startup, because again, everything depends on everything.
Yeah.
And when you do one step, it changes everything else that you've already done. And when you need to do the next step, that's going to make you rethink whatever your basic strategy is, what your core values are. So there are frameworks to help you through this, but it's very non-linear.
Thank you. That's fantastic.
It keeps changing.
I'm sorry, can we?
Starting to talk so much.
No problem at all.
Questions to Kate and Jodi for the rest of the.
Yeah. So, you know, I think one
Let's
thing.
keep it to just questions to Kate and Jodi and save the comments maybe for afterwards.
I kind of got on a roll there.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point. I mean, as I started off in the beginning, every situation is different, and I think our goal here today is to give you guys, if you can walk away with 5 or 10 tips that you think are relevant to you, it would be great. I think that, you know, marketing is not something that is going to be the same for every single company. It's just, it's something that's very different, and every situation is different. So, so in the next one, launching is not as easy as pushing an easy button. Have a plan. This goes, you know, part of why you don't want to rush is because it's best to have a plan. You want to know, you know, again, who your audience is, what your goals are, what your key messages are, who your spokesperson is going to be. Yeah. Is that spokesperson ready to talk to the press? You know, I would recommend videoing whoever's going to be your spokesperson and see how they do. Do a mock interview. See if you can find a journalist or a blogger or somebody. Jodi's a former journalist. She spends time grilling her person on some sample questions. And how is this person going to actually do under pressure to know if they're the right spokesperson? If they're not, who is a better spokesperson within the company?
One of the things that you always have to remember as well is not just the media, because the media is this much of your life, your community is this much. And a lot of people are just constantly focusing on the media part of it. But I really want to be engaged with I really want you guys to be very clear about the fact that when I was in the media, if you weren't engaged with your community, I didn't touch you. I don't care how big and how good your story was. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to actually have you on my program. I'm going to do an interview with you. And then guess what? I'm going to go right to an investor, see how they feel about you. Then I'm going to go right to your community to see if they would buy it and if they would tell their friends about it. If your community is not engaged with your product, if you're not engaged talking to your community, you're a dead story for me. And it's my ratings. And because it's my ratings, I have to make sure the best person is on the air. So I don't care how great your product is. I go, it will die within seconds if the community is not engaged with that. And I've watched a lot of great ideas die, a lot of them, just because the higher ups in the entrepreneurial world, they didn't want to. I don't have time for the community. What? You have to have time. You have to make time, or you have to have someone on your team that is going to devote that time. And I agree with Kate. Have a spokesperson who's going to be doing the talking and to whom. So if you're going to have 3 founders, 2 founders, whatever's, if someone specializes in XYZ, have them talk. If you're life science, but there's tech involved, and the life science person is a doctor, but he's not tech savvy, make sure the founders split their time, so that way you're able to actually either do the interviews together or split them up and talk to the community. So that way you're engaging with the person that you're speaking to. And they're not like, why are you doing this if you don't understand it? No, I don't, but my partner does. Well, where's your partner? Well, he's not here. Be very smart in regards to who's talking to who.
So I have a question about building the community, right? So at the beginning, when we know who our target audience are, but then we have to get to them,
Yep.
I have a question about we have a limited budget for advertising, but then we want to go talk to people. So I can talk to lots of people around here, but how do you suggest sort of building organically versus getting the word out other ways? And really, how do you approach your audience so that you can engage with them?
I'm really of the school of being the door-to-door salesman and really going and talking to people and going on that road trip. Your budget of filling up a car, gas, and talking to people is so much less than advertising dollars that you don't know where it's going. So why would you pay for that advertising and then just put it out there? It's just basically like spamming. So take the time, follow the bread trails, know who you're targeting, and go to them. I mean, the only time that it's awkward is if you're having you're making a toy. You can't go to a playground and talk to kids without their parents' permission. It's kind of weird, might get you in trouble. So you go to the moms, you go to the blogs, you go to the YMCA. I mean, there's so many areas that you can actually find the people that are in your area. So there's really no excuse whatsoever to find the people. People are around you everywhere. University colleges, we're a college town, we are a sports town, we are a party town. We have it all here. We're a tourist town. Everyone is right here. Take the time and spend the day, park, etc., and follow the people that are in your demo.
Figure out who the influencers are in your space too, and make them your core. So that's sort of knowing who your audience is. These days, with various tools online, you figure out who are the biggest influencers in your space and really target them. And those, often are people outside of the media that you can go to. Bloggers are different than traditional media. There's a lot more you can do with the bloggers on board to get them on board and write about it. If you're in a beta, invite in some of those influencers early. That's a really great way to get them and say, listen, I'm not ready for you to write about me, but I want to invite you into my beta to participate in this, and so that when we are ready to launch, you're comfortable with it. Now, feel confident in your product, because when you are ready to launch, if they weren't happy with it, but I think that those key influencers can be, a way to get out to the broader community. Feet on the ground, students are a great way. It really depends on what your market is and how you're getting out, out to it. But any other questions? And budget is another thing. Know your budget. It's always tough, and lean startup trying to do it on short dollars. So, I think there's various tactics that you can use in terms of drawing in. As I said earlier, I recommend trying to find consultants. There's a lot of people out there that have left PR agencies and marketing firms or independent web designers that are going to be a lot cheaper. You don't need to be spending $25,000 on a website, especially these days. I mean, especially if you've got technical talent on board. No, sometimes your technical talent isn't necessarily going to be a designer. So maybe you have the resources to build the site, but you need to spend some dollars to get a designer on board to actually do the design work around it. And again, talk to people on that. But I think that's there's those resources that you can use. Timelines is the other thing in terms of it's not easy. Think out. I mean, I would say for a good launch, you can do it in a couple months for a really, really good launch. But that's from, the time that you've named your company, now you need to get a website built. You need to do all of these things along the way to the point where I think you're ready to launch. Now, it can be done obviously a lot quicker if you have some of those things in place along the way, because every company's at a different stage. So if you have a website available already, then that makes it a little bit easier to push it up and bump it up. But
one of the things that you, as entrepreneurs, and I'm just going to ask, how many of the entrepreneurs here are funded? Hi, so I can actually see. Not that many. Okay, so when I worked in radio, I worked at the #1 radio station in Boston. I mean, pools and pools and pools of money. So whenever we want to do something creative, I'd go to my boss. I'm like, okay, we have this idea. It's fantastic. We're ready to go. He goes, we have no money. I'm like, huh? We're the #1 station in Boston. He goes, no budget. Figure it out. It made us creative. A lot of teams that I'm meeting, they're getting funding and they're squandering the money. I'd rather you have no money and be creative and think outside the box. You came to this point without the money. You came up with the idea. Still stay to that level where I have limited funds. Use those funds for human capital to get more people on board to help you build your company so it's stronger. It doesn't make sense to spend your money on a glamorous office space. It doesn't make sense to spend your money on, that printer that's like $500. It just doesn't make sense. There's so many resources that you can do a lot of these things for free or for a little.
Student interns are great.
Fabulous.
A lot of you are students, but recruiting other students. I mean, students are hungry and they want to get experience, and everybody wants the startup experience these days. It's a great way to get resources, and often the students are on the cutting edge of technology, and they can know how to use Twitter with like the max. They know all of the social media inside and out. And so all of our companies, are looking to get those great designers as well. If you can know the schools, I mean, here in Boston, you've got Emerson and you've got Mass College of Art and all these schools.
Yeah, RISD, right in Rhode Island, right there. So I'm the biggest advocate of interns, although, I'm biggest advocate. So some of my team members are back there. I love them to death. They're awesome. My entire career is based off of this. I was an intern. I was given an opportunity where I was an intern at Kiss 108 for 6 months. I worked my tail off. And literally, they fired the producer. They're like, "You're now the producer." I'm like, "No, I don't want to be." And I was a teacher prior to that, so I had no idea what I was getting into. But I worked hard. And one of the things where I always give back, where my entire career of 20 years, I've only had interns. They're my team. They work really hard. Know how to hire the right ones. Take the time. Don't give them schlep work. My guys work. My guys are with clients. My guys, I give them real tasks because they are good at what they do, and I've hired them to do it for me. They're phenomenal. They're being taught this. They have this entire history of doing this.
So what do you do when you hire an intern?
How
do you look for an intern?
Oh, all right. So 3 things. All right. So we're just getting off chart here.
Yeah. We're going to go all around some of these slides.
3 things. Number 1, you go to 215 universities, colleges, and trade schools in the state. I know this because obviously I worked for the governor, so I know this. Out of the 215 universities, colleges, and trade schools, top 3% of all the schools, they are so passionate about their futures that they want to work with you. And a lot of the smaller schools, if you're thinking about Lesley, if you're thinking about, like Western Mass, Central Mass, they don't have the opportunities that a Harvard, MIT, a Babson, like all the great schools, it's an automatic you get an internship. The smaller schools, they don't have the opportunity and they need it. Because nowadays, if I see no work experience on your resume, I'm not hiring you. You have to have your work experience. That 4.0 does nothing for my company. I need to know that you can actually get out there and you can work by yourself and with a team. Number 2, you want to go after the military. A lot of them are coming home. I go right to the ROTC. It's amazing. They are very, very focused. They are trained in a skill set that you probably will need. They're right there for you, and yet no one taps into them.
We have a portfolio company. Its CEO is a former Navy SEAL, and he says that former military, are the best employees you ever have because they are trained to work on teams.
Yep.
They have to. You have to work as a team to get the job done, and their work ethic is beyond anything.
One of our teams is all about the military.
Nice.
And the last one I have to say is like the high schools. A lot of the high schools, I mean, I have like 2 high school students, and they are really, really, really good. There's a camp called Dream Careers, and instead of going to a teen tour, hanging out at the beach with their friends, their parents and the students, they invest in this camp, and they go to a location for a month, the month of July, and they're in their career, so that way they have something on their resume. Well before, I mean, and literally I have sophomores, juniors, seniors, I mean, they're amazing. They're really, really invested in what they're doing. Their parents are invested in what they're doing early.
I was just going to ask, at what point in your startup journey is it okay to get an intern? So, you're just putting the idea on
Day one.
To where?
Day one. I mean, you need help. You need bodies. You don't have any money. Get the help.
Even if the idea is just on paper, you have no funding, you don't have a website yet.
You can get people starting with you early. The only thing throughout all of this is when you have an idea going, make sure that you've got NDAs in place, just so that for your protection around things.
And if you don't have NDA, because like for some of my team members, I do have NDAs, and for some of them I don't, the lawyers know all their names. The second they were hired, resumes went right to the lawyers. Hi.
Question back here.
Oh. Yep.
I just had a question about, again, going back to the interns. Are they all unpaid, or are you paying them small stipends? Do you find a difference in your experience in terms of whether you're paying them or not, even if it's something very nominal?
It's really across the board.
Yeah.
I've had interns. I typically pay them, $12, $15 an hour. We're a VC firm. It's, I think, a little bit different. Mm-hmm. If a lot of my companies right now are actually using co-ops from Northeastern and having great success with them. Yeah. The great thing about that is that they're with you for 6 full months. They're a full-time employee. The engineering students out of there are highly valued. And for that program, you're expected to pay them sort of a comparable salary for what the position is that they're in. And then there's some unpaid ones. I mean, there's a lot of students that are willing to work for free because they want the experience. And I think it's a little harder when it's unpaid, because I found that even if it's a nominal amount, they might not be as engaged unless they're super, super focused and eager.
So I'm of the school of not paying interns. I have a co-op the co-op from Northeastern gets paid. I don't pay interns for the reason that I pick the best of the best. I'm here to educate you. You're not just working. You're being educated in regards of your field to grow. It is on your resume. We work really hard to make sure that we're in existence, so that way you could actually go to a job interview and get placement. I'm very proud to have my interns on air in MBA programs, in law firms, because they went to law school. They're everywhere. I'm a tough boss. I'm really tough. I'm ugly tough. I give them really, really demanding things. I expect the best because I bring in the best. But I won't pay you because you can get the credits for it, and I guarantee I will open up my Rolodex to you.
So if you're not paying, and there are a lot, I think there's a lot.
I offer a lot
case
more.
You can make. Yeah.
To follow up on Vanessa's question, I was curious about identifying amongst this pool of applicants who are the best of those interns. Somebody told me to ask what you do on the weekends, because it suggests their passion and initiative beyond their school or work. But I was curious if you could follow up on that.
I'm sorry, so I wasn't clear. Ask them what they do on weekends, or?
In an interview situation, or as you're interacting with a pool of applicants for these internships.
How do you identify who's the best?
How do you identify who are going to be those high quality interns for you?
For us, we have a rule. You have to have a 3.5 GPA just to even be looked at. So we start from the 3.5 GPA, and from that point on, my assistant Megan does the first round of interviews. She weeds through a list of them, and then I do the second round. So good cop, bad cop.
I also, when I've hired interns, I've made one of the reference calls I do is to one of their professors, and. Honestly, as I tell all students out there, I go to their Facebook page, I go to their Twitter feed, I figure out what they're, it's amazing to me how many people still to these days put inappropriate pictures up when they're looking for a job.
Ouch.
So.
It's such an ouch moment. It's like it is one of those. If you guys, I'm just going to say this out. If you guys have a Facebook and you own
Make
a company,
it private.
close it down. Like, in regards, I'm sorry, close it down in regards of like friends, family, people that you brought in, but don't let the world see it because you're out there now promoting your company. So you definitely want to like close it down. You could have your company Facebook, and that's open to everyone, but your personal life should stay private now.
You're open because you don't know if you could have that minute of success where you suddenly become, and it's very easy for people to get in there and see. So, I tell all of our companies, and I tell students when I meet with them that, don't tweet something that you don't want your mom or your grandmother reading from your personal account. It's just sort of yep.
This is a serious question. It's not. I had never thought about fully staffing a company with interns.
I wouldn't fully staff.
That's not what you're talking
I
about.
wouldn't want to fully staff.
But it just makes me wonder, generally speaking, could you take a company up to $500,000 or to $1 million or something like that with basically very low price labor? But my question actually was, how do you find the time to write the reference letters that you're asked to write afterwards? Because it sounds like you have an awful lot of these people working for you.
It's a beautiful assistant, Megan.
All right, we're never going to get through these slides. So I think we've covered a lot of these things and other things, but choosing a partner, skip the yellow pages. Go to trusted resources and ask. Once you have investors are great people to ask. We are working with a lot of these folks on a daily basis. If you're working at a co-working spaces, talk to the other teams that are there. There's just a lot of great people out there that you can get things from. Ultimately, this kind of goes to the next thing, hire surgeons, not general practitioners. So when it comes to marketing, it's my belief that you should hire a surgeon, someone that specializes in what you are needing them to do. I am not a fan of going to a firm that says we can build your website, do your PR, do your messaging, do your media training, and launch you all at once. And there are a lot of firms out there that do that. And they might have the expertise within people in-house, but it's always going to be a little iffy. And so I think, just as you wouldn't go to, your general practitioner if you were getting chemotherapy, you don't want to, this is your baby, and you need to make sure that you've got the best people there working on it.
With that said, our company does a lot of these different things, and she's like, I wouldn't go to them. I'm like, I go, wait a second, we do that. What I would definitely consider is that think about when you're in school and you're taught a little bit of everything. The person that you are using for your marketing should be knowledgeable in a lot of different areas, so that way when they're suggesting someone to you, they can be by your side to protect you if something is needed. So if you're going to hire a PR firm for a specific thing on your company, make sure that your marketing person is very versed in all that's going on, so that way the PR person isn't going to dupe you to believe that this is the only way it can be done, because there's so many ways they can do things. I can't see you. I'm sorry, can you just come up a little bit?
Or
In the poll, there's a poll and we can't see you.
Jodi, is there a handheld mic that we can use for questions?
There is. It's right under the podium.
Okay.
Great.
Do you hear me? Okay, so my question is, we are a startup pre-funding. Okay, so it's bootstrapping, it's all out of pocket and so on. And we're talking about getting obviously talented and people that can help us with the expertise that we don't have in-house, right? So my question is, there are all kinds of models, especially on the legal front, companies that do deferral and all kinds of things that they actually invest in the company and they will get their money back, assuming that you're going to succeed. How does it work with other areas such as marketing? Is it something common? Is it some models that we see in the market, or is it all upfront kind of money and that's it?
There are some companies and individuals. I find it's more individuals who, for the right company, if they truly believe in the company, will take equity in exchange for work. Sometimes it's a split. Usually it's got to be someone who's pretty senior in their career that has the ability to do that, and they'll only do it with a couple companies. But it's a great way, too, that you could offer that up as a company because it shows that person also has skin in the game to really make this successful. And it's something that our companies, I kind of like to see. You don't have to give them a ton, but there's a little bit of upside for them.
For us, I mean, one of the things that we do in our company is that no one knows your company better than the people inside. Like, there's nobody else. I mean, someone can come inside and they can just learn. The learning curve is there, but you're moving fast. So one of the things that I push hard is hire someone that's marketing, hire someone that is 2 to 3 years out of the gate, but yet they have experience. They know the lingo. I go and then hire someone as a consultant just to train that person, work with you in regards to the strategy, the goals, and focus on making sure that this person rocks at what they do. Person leaves, your person's in-house, they know what they're doing. Okay? You're not paying the same high price of bringing in, because you can't afford a big marketing person or a big marketing firm. Hire someone internally and then make sure they're trained. Think about if you were ever in the corporate world, your boss sends you out for training. They want you to stay in the company, but they want you to get better at what you do for them. Same model.
One thing that I do within our portfolios, we've got a couple of those companies that are very early stage, and they've got the person with 2 years experience who's heading up marketing at the company, and they do need help. I mean, it's a single person role. And so I try to pair them up with some of the other companies that have more established and get them mentors. Yeah. Finding mentors for folks is just one of the best ways they're going to learn. And so I would push any of your employees, if you are hiring at that sort of a couple years experience, one of the things when you hire them is say, I want you to go find a mentor that can help you really succeed in this position.
Remember, I think that one of the things that is getting lost a lot in the entrepreneurial ecosystem is when you hear the word mentor, everyone's like, well, they don't have time. It's giving back. It's our time to give back. It's volunteerism. And I'm sure, how many people volunteered when they were younger?
Can you read
hands.
Further?
Huh?
I want you to read
How many? No, so I can see the hands. How many people volunteered because your parents got you involved in it, your church, or et cetera? This is our time. We give back. So when you get to a point where you have the knowledge and you can help a team, we're giving back and we're volunteering our time 2 or 3 hours a week per team. I go and I should say an hour per week. I mentor 4 teams, and they're early stages, and they're coming in from all the different parts of the world. And it's great for me to get out of my world, because I want to get out of my head, out of what I deal with every single day. My team knows. I just get to the point where I'm tired of it. I'm tired of hearing my own voice sometimes talking about the same topic in regards to building our company. But I love hearing everyone else's new topics and how it can help them. So, and think about all of you guys. While you're working on your company and you're tired of it, and sometimes you just need to step away from it, volunteer at a high school. Volunteer in any other location, because that might jog your memory or your thoughts about oh, wait, something innovative that I would have never thought about. Because usually I'm sitting in front of my computer for 12 hours, because I'm sure, like me, you guys have all done all-nighters, and you're tired and you just can't think straight. Take a step away from it and give back to somebody else to do it, to come up with those ideas.
All right, focus. So again, I think we've probably covered a lot of this, but know your target audience, know your target market, start there, then grow out. You don't want to be everything to everybody right off the bat would be my advice. And this I think goes into the lean startup is when you focus, you're then going to be able to realize on short dollars, okay, is it time to make a change or is it not? But if you're not focused, it's a lot harder to make those decisions.
And when in the focus category, make sure you want to do it. This is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of work to be part of a startup community. So if you're just doing it just because, couldn't get a job, couldn't get into grad school, I'll just do startup. It's not funny. It's like there are days where I'm I hate this a lot. But then there are days where I go, oh my God, I'm rocking it. So make sure you're focused on the fact that you're going to give up a lot. Time with your family, time with your friends. People are in your world are going to be you know what? Why don't you just get a regular job? What's this that you're doing? Why are you wasting all your money? I'm sure a lot of you guys have heard that, where people think you're crazy. Focus and know that you believe in what you're doing. Okay? Because it's a long road. Whether it's fast, slow, whatever, it's a long road to success in the startup community. And you guys all know the failure rate.
Sorry, we're going to take a quick little break here because I want to get some feedback.
Okay.
All right. Somebody who's working in a company, get up and give us your 1-minute pitch.
Dun, dun, dun.
If not, I'm going to call on somebody. All right, in the back. Is the microphone there?
Oh. Abby didn't realize she was going to be part of the show.
All right. I represent CrowdSOS, and CrowdSOS is a mobile application that crowdsources information about crime and safety, and allows individuals to report incidents that are happening in their college campuses. And our target demographic are college students from the ages of 18 to 22 who live away from home, and the application allows parents or other loved ones to follow and track their children wherever they may be. We have funding so far from the Clinton Global Initiative and MIT, and we've launched a pilot in Denmark and now planning to launch it at MIT itself. And then those are. I think that's 1 minute.
Well done.
That was very well done. So, in terms of PR or your outreach, who is your target audience? Your key target audience.
Our key target audience is out-of-state college students between the ages of 18 to 22.
And how are you reaching them right now?
By going to campuses and setting up booths and tables, and then talking directly to the Department of Public Safety, who are also trying to reach out to students and keep them safe, and we offer this application to them.
Great.
Out of state. Why out of state?
Because our application focuses primarily on allowing parents to track where their where their children are through a GPS function, and people who are in state sometimes live at home. So if we focus primarily on in state and out of state, I think it waters us down a little bit, because we know that out of state individuals aren't living at home. So that, yeah.
So for me, I would have asked low-hanging fruit of, again, you're in a state where the only state in the world that has so many colleges, and yet you're not using it here. And a lot of people here that are from, I don't know, they're from Western Mass, they're coming to Boston here. It's a 3-hour commute. Parents aren't coming here and they're not living on campus. So why can't I use your product?
You could technically use our product, and I mean it'll be.
Means the students are
out of state,
right? You don't mean you're not in Massachusetts. I don't think that's what it is.
No, I mean our product is being piloted at MIT. I mean in Massachusetts, but individuals who commute to MIT that have 3-hour commutes or whatever, they're more than happy to or welcome to use our application.
Okay.
We're not necessarily targeting them because it's hard. I think it's what we've learned is that it's harder for us to identify which in-state students are living at home and which ones are commuting, and it's a lot easier to find out based on the records that universities have who the out-of-state students are.
And then I was going to say that was going to be the follow-up. Well, would you partner with the schools in regards of getting those numbers, those metrics?
Exactly. So we work with the Department of Public Safety, we work with the Registrar's Office, and all these other safety sorts of institutions on campus, like wellness services and residential life.
So just from a PR perspective, your target, for you publications, you should be going to the college publications, obviously, and then more of a broad consumer press. Because I think what you've done a good job in is you've identified your target market, because you could have a lot of target markets. You could be going after the parents, which it doesn't sound like you are, but that's secondary. You're going after the students primarily, so I think that's good. That's a good example of the focus. But for the parents, then when you're ready for that, then it's, I think, more of a national sort of general consumer press story. And the tech press, other than maybe it's a cool mobile app and some of those, it's really not as focused for you, so I wouldn't spend the time on that.
Thank you.
I had just another question. Thanks. Do you already have to have thought of sort of your funding mechanism or the way in which you are going to pay for your product before you can start thinking about marketing? And the reason I'm asking is if you're the beneficiary of the program that you're offering is different than the stakeholder who may be, paying for it or supporting it. I'm just, thinking about.
Are you? So I guess I don't under. So you're talking about like crowdfunding in terms of do you need to get.
Well, no, I guess it's more if the venture has kind of a social mission to it, an underlying social dimension. So for me, I'm looking at entrepreneurship education for high potential disadvantaged female youth in developing countries. And, again, in the very early stages, and so this, in a pilot phase. But so I guess I'm just, this for me is kind of longer term when you're saying focus. Do you need to sort of figure out how you're funding it to know really like who you're targeting? Is that
I think in the social you're going to have to figure out the funding because it's going to be different than traditional. But I think focus for you is going to be choose a country of where you're going to be. You're not going to go throughout in developing all the developing nations, and it might be down to choose a village where you're going to go to figure out and test this first versus, and that's the focus to figure out, okay, then is it going to go further? And that's going to take funding. You're going to have to know what your funding needs are before you go out and do that.
But then about the marketing, but then about sort of this marketing piece, about getting the word out about what you're doing, is that something that you kind of delay until after, seeing the results of your
I would wait to do the marketing spend until you've focused, you've figured out what it is, and then you're ready to go out. So there's going to be smaller dollars up front, and then when you're ready to go big, that's when you're going to have to actually have more cash to do it.
May I ask a follow-up question to that? I work in developing countries also, and I'm curious. Aside from the developing countries, what could you generally say about the lifestyle stage of a company or a startup in terms of service versus product? When would you typically go for funding in the life stage of a service company versus a product company?
In terms of institutional funding or angel funding, it really depends on.
Yeah, I know it all. Everything depends on everything. I'm just curious if you just do it simply and very generally, like a product life cycle.
Yeah. I think for a service, you're going to want to.
How much do you operate before you go for the funding?
I mean, talking from I don't oversee our investing, but I sit in on all the companies that pitch us, et cetera. From a service perspective, we're going to want to see that you've had some kind of adoption on the service before you're going to get funding from us. If it's solely in product development on a service, it's going to be much tougher to get funding. On a product, we're much at an early stage. We'll fund things before a product's ever built, and we'll do it more on a concept or an idea. Okay. Be careful what you say to whom. Assume everything that you are talking about could end up on the record or out there if it's not outside of a very trusted resource. One of my favorite stories is there's been multiple journalists that are sitting on airplanes and people are working on their computers and they are watching the product pitch of the person sitting next to them. There's a lot of that happens. You're in a bar, you're talking to your friend about your company, and there's a journalist sitting right next door to you, or your competitor sitting right next door to you, and says, or somebody you don't know is and says, wow, that's a really great idea. I'm going to go work on it. Be careful where you are, what you're saying to whom at all times until you're ready.
You can definitely talk about your product. I mean, we don't want you to be afraid to talk about what you're doing, stuff like that. Just don't give out the secret sauce. Mm-hmm. That's probably the biggest thing, because you want to actually get that feedback where, hey, if I sit there and start talking about my product or my company, I go, do you understand it? Because you want to make sure that you're speaking clearly in regards of what the mission, what the problem is, the pain point. But never, ever, if someone asks, well, tell me exactly. Well, I can't go into exactly how that works, but this is the general concept of it. When a reporter finds out about your product, you could just tell them, I'm like, I couldn't give you some generalization of the problem, and I can tell you a little bit about what we're working on, but I can't tell you in detail yet because we're not ready. We're not ready to actually dig deep in detail. Even when a product is, like Google or iPhones, they don't tell you, the algorithms, they don't tell you the technology behind it. They just tell you it works. And a lot of people are going to get excited about it and the buzz. And and you're going to solve the problem. So never be afraid to talk to people. Just don't tell them everything. It's like when your mom and dad say, what happens in the house kind of stays in the house. Remember that.
Yeah.
Because not everyone needs to know your business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi. Well, I have a website in the health services space, and I'm interested in what you started saying about partner and team asking for referrals.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been working on a product in my coursework at Harvard, and wanted to find out about. Somebody approached me here a few weeks ago and found that we had a similar idea for the product, but she has a slightly different market. So I'm not sure if that's a good enough reason to get together, or I wonder if you could speak more about building the.
So in terms of if there's an opportunity for you guys to partner on what you're doing, and
I need to start looking at partnerships as well at this point to really
So if you're looking at partnerships, I mean, I think it's fine to get together. I think, again, don't go into the secret sauce of what it is, but you want to, number one, before you get into really deciding on a partnership, especially if it's around product development, et cetera, I would do due diligence, too, on the person after you talk to them.
You to sign an NDA.
Yep. And you should ask her the same for yours. Yep.
Are there different types? I haven't gotten that far. Are there different types of NDAs, or
Yeah.
is there a standard one, or
You can, you can.
your own lawyer too?
You can get legal advice. If you can't afford a lawyer, there's also ones online that you can pull down and figure out, but if it's around sharing information. So, yeah. So.
I agree with that.
Yeah. We do agree.
We agree.
Media people aren't your friends.
This is my favorite topic.
It is. Never think that they are your friends. You need them. And they need you. So it's actually a really interesting dance you're always doing with the media, because they rely on you to get their stories and to be their sources. And they also want you to think of them as number one all the time. At the same point, you need them when you're ready to launch your company. You want the right people to write about you, and you want them to write a good story. And so you're always doing, but the time frames that you guys need that and want that information is always not in sync. And a reporter, while they might be a super nice person, and you meet them at an event, you talk to them, you have a drink and everything else, they're doing a job, and their job is to get a scoop. They want to be the first person to break a story. That is their number one job. And these days, most journalists, I would say, are probably writing anywhere from 5 to 7 stories a day with posting online.
The middle to lower tier ones are.
Yeah. And so you need to, they are looking to crank out, and they're always looking for something that they can hear. So their ears are always on when they're at conferences, and they're, the key for you, I think, is to build relationships with reporters so that it is a nice two-way street, and you can trust them, and they can trust you, and there's various ways you can do that. You should be a source to a reporter if it's on something that's not about you. Thanks for calling. I'm not ready to talk, but you know what? I actually heard this really interesting thing from X on something, and point them in another direction and give them a lead on another story. That's a great tactic you can use. Make sure it's not somebody you're going to piss off along the way by doing that.
True. I'm just going to sit there and say that so they're really not your friends at all. I don't care if they're your next door neighbor. They're not your friends. I had ratings, and my ratings were very important to me because my ratings were connected to a bonus every quarter. That means I had to make sure that the best of the best was on my show. I had to make sure that they were very well vetted. It was really one of those fear factors because I had the boss saying, screw us and you're fired. In the media, it's a dog-eat-dog world, especially when you're in the top and everybody wants to take you down. We are not your friends, but we can be your allies. We can actually support your company. We can actually help you build your personal brand. I always had a list of 20 go-tos. It didn't matter what story it was. I need someone on the air. Boom, I could pick up the phone. Morning show. I was in my office at 4:30 in the morning. A breaking story came. From 4:30 in the morning to 6:18 a.m. to get someone on the air. I had to have my go-to people, my experts, because I'm waking you up at 5:30 and I'm sending you a story and I need you to read it and I need you to be articulate and not groggy. Get the coffee going because at 6:18 you're on the air. Okay? So I use you guys as experts more than anything else. There are people that I would blacklist as well. If you went on the air and you lied, gone.
Never lie to a reporter.
I mean, it's worse. It's the worst thing you could possibly do. Yeah. Not only never lie, if I find out, it's worse. And it was very important. Again, it is my career. It is my ratings. It is my hosts. I'm the producer. I'm the reporter. I report to the person that's actually on air. Dan Rather's career bombed because his people didn't do the due diligence of literally doing background work because they just wanted to get to him quickly. Because they wanted to beat NBC, and he got fired because of it. Dan Rather's. So be careful in regards to what you're using. I mean, what you're saying to the media. Be careful when we're using you as an expert. And I always say me, I will always be a media person. I will always think like, it's like when you're Catholic and you change over, you're always like Catholic thinking. Literally, I will always think like a media person. So be very wary of that. Expert is great because when your company gets acquired or if your product fails, you as the individual, you're still the person I want. You're marketable. Every single person in this room, you're more marketable to me than your product or your business. You are the expert that I want to get out there at conferences, in front of reporters, in other countries. You are the key element. So you have to remember that. So make sure your brand stays intact.
Yeah.
If you have a choice of speaking to several reporters you really don't know, or if you're looking for like a good reporter or journalist to get connected to, what are the ways of identifying those people?
Next slide. Give me 2 seconds. We're going to go into any other questions on this one? But you want to be on their radar. So how do you do that? It takes work. It's not just something. It is, my reporter contacts, and I probably have I would say a short list of 10 people that I feel I could pick up the phone at any point, and if I actually need something at this point, I've given them enough along the way, and we've worked together that they can actually be my ally.
Yep.
And correct, and a lot of that's around a correction or something that's been misreported on something else when you're the company. So it takes a lot of work and a lot of cajoling. There is one of the best ways, number one, going back to the foundation, is if you've built your list, I would say start small. Choose 2, 3, 4 reporters that really cover your space and can have an impact and focus on those reporters and how to build a relationship with those reporters. Mm-hmm. Start following them on Twitter. Start, interacting if you can to get engaged with these people. The number of reporters that will out on Twitter or other places report about, put out a tweet about, I'm having a baby or something else. Suddenly there's a thing. Okay, well, now I know I've got a personal bit of information about this person that I can now use, because if you can start engaging when you do talk to them, how's the pregnancy going, or whatever else around that, or you have a dog.
It's a little gray, though,
the
stalking area.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? How do you know I'm pregnant? Weird. This is kind of weird.
If they've been active about it. There's certain information tidbits you can learn about reporters along the way that can be helpful to you, because reporters are people, and I'm all about sort of making it more of a personal relationship. And so get to know them, start commenting on their stories, blogs, to know what they've been writing about, especially if you're going to do an interview with a reporter. The last thing you should do before you jump on the phone is you've spent 15 minutes reading their recent stories. So when you jump on, hey, that was a great article about X that you wrote, before you jump into your interview, stroke their egos around that you actually know who they are as people.
So I'm all about being traditional. I love the fact that if I'm looking to engage with a reporter, I invite them out for coffee. Mm-hmm. I just invite them out for coffee. I'm not pitching you, just want to get a better understanding of what you're doing. I send them an email, and I send them out. I go to coffee with them, and it's 15, 20 minutes for them. They get their coffee. It's great, with not a problem. I just lost my train of thought.
In terms of getting go to your competitor sites, figure out, that's another way to figure out who those people are. And then, figure out, are they going to conferences where you can actually go introduce yourself?
Yep.
The number of, I'll even say, and some of these things can go across just outside of reporters, but Jodi and I were both sitting up here for a half an hour before, 15 minutes probably, when people came in, and not one person approached us and came up and introduced themselves beforehand. It was a perfect opportunity to come up that afterwards I would say, wow, actually, when that person links into me afterwards, I'm going to accept it, or if they want some advice afterwards, I might take their meeting because they made that extra effort to approach me and introduce and say, I'm really looking forward to this session today. This is my question I was going to come up with too.
Okay.
All right, so now I'm going to test people because I'm going to see if people did their homework. Anybody that can name my dog?
Ripley.
All right, she wins. She did her homework. If you go to my Twitter account, my description is, I'm mother to a chocolate lab named Ripley. So if you had done that, you would know what the name of my dog was.
Okay, so that's perfect.
Really cute.
He is really cute. He has beautiful eyes. He has beautiful eyes. A lot of established reporters are not on Twitter. They're on LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. So don't assume Twitter is the only place that you're going to find it, because life science reporters are not Twittering.
Yeah, that's
Twittering, tweeting.
It depends on your market. If you're in the life sciences space, I wouldn't waste a moment on Twitter. Yeah. Anything outside of that, most of the reporters, I think, are, but...
A lot of the established ones, not so much. A lot of my colleagues that are at New York Times, Washington Post, they don't, because their bosses are just like, you know what, we have interns. You can do that.
Yeah.
And they tweet. for the company overall. But a lot of them are they're out there working on really great stories. So you want to make sure that you're using all avenues, not just one, because not only one will work.
The other thing around creating, just getting on people's radar is knowing kind of how to pitch and what to pitch. I'm a big fan of pitching around sort of current events. Keep up to date on what's going on in the news, and if there's something that's relevant, even tangentially to what you're doing, and you could be a source, reach out and pitch a thing around your company on this space. If I'm trying to think of an example, there's tons of examples of these.
I'll give a quick one. The bombing happened. It was shocking to me how many of my reporters throughout the world that called me. They're like, "Can I get an entrepreneur that can speak on this?" And I had a handful, but by the time I got the majority of them, the story was already dead. And so for me, that was my pain point where I go, wow, we should have had that list ready to go, but you don't know who's working on what.
Tragedy is, it's really, the number of people that's when people are going to be coming out for things. Holidays, it's a great reason to know your business. If you're, going back to school stories, there's always sort of these, Christmas or around certain times a year that you can go pitch a story. Put together the full story for a reporter. So if you're going to, if you've got something that's targeted at the student market and it's a going back to school story, pick 3 other companies that could be in the space around it and put together the whole story. I can get you in touch with, look within all the people that are here, other entrepreneurs that you can package a story together for a reporter. You make their jobs easy, they're probably much more likely to write the story.
Yep.
They don't have to do the legwork on it.
Hey.
Are there physical events that you can go to where reporters tend to congregate in Boston area?
Big news events. Big news events.
Where they're going to be focused on.
Where they're going to be focused on, and you're going to watch them, and you're going to get to know them, and you're going to see their style, the mini stalking. But then when they're not busy, then you're going to approach them and say, you know what, I remember seeing you at XYZ. I loved how you asked that question to that individual. I go, very well thought out. I would like to find out if you're available for coffee.
I would look at, one thing, a tactic is to look at, there's a lot of events in a lot of the local media. The national media don't tend to come to the events in Boston. So it's going to be the local media. It's going to be, Boston Globe, Mass High Tech, Boston Herald, Economy, all those kind of guys, some of the, and so look at the agendas typically at a lot of the things. If you see a journalist there and it looks like, it's a cheap or a free event, go to it. And as I said before, go up and introduce yourself beforehand. Let yourself be known.
But
It's
don't
just a
pitch
quick
them.
eye. No,
Just
don't pitch
Don't
them.
pitch them. Just introduce yourself and get to know who they are, and let them know who you are.
Give them your card. Hey, it's great to see you. Glad you're really looking forward to hearing what you say today. And then afterwards, make sure you follow up with it too. Send them a note that says, great session today. Send them an email or a tweet if they're on Twitter or whatever else, and say, start engaging with them in a way. You don't, it is a line of you don't want to stalk them. I would not be hammering them every single day. But if there's an event around that, link in with them. Send them a LinkedIn invitation. Most of the reporters will accept those. And you sort of introduced yourself and let yourself be known. It could, a lot of times, trigger in someone's head, maybe I should look up to see what they're doing, or I'm going to look at their LinkedIn profile to see who this person is all about. Maybe they're interested, maybe they're not.
The best time for any reporter is the month of August. It's so dead. We're looking and dying for a story. So if you've made that introduction and they're just looking for something to write on, this is your opportunity.
And Christmas week. Christmas week is a great time to pitch a story. It's just, reporters, there are reporters that have to be writing, and they need material.
Could you talk a little bit more about press releases and how to use this tool?
Press releases, yeah. So
I still believe in press releases. I get good press releases, and I'm going to actually make that phone call. And I'm not reading the entire thing. I'm reading the first paragraph. I've never, ever read an entire press release, ever. I could care less. If you don't have me in the first paragraph, you don't have me at all. If you don't have me in the header, definitely don't have me. And I just file you under the T for trash can.
Have a catchy headline. Something that, we have a company called Firebase, and they were doing something, and it was, we came up with some headline around, Firebase. It was something around fire. I can't remember the headline, but it really journalists was like, wow, that's a great headline. come up with those, and then, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought now.
I know.
It's a long time to be up here. Press releases. I think there are certain circumstances where press releases make sense. I do not think every bit of news requires a press release, is my personal opinion. It's certainly gotten cheaper than it used to be because there are some cheaper options for doing it. Mm-hmm. You can do press releases without putting it on the wire services if you wanted to, as a way to, get it up on the website. But I will always ask, what's the news? What's the reason for it? Are we better doing a targeted pitch on this one because it's actually not as newsworthy for a press release? And let's save the press releases for the bigger newsworthy stories, where we can get, maybe it's going to bring some really good SEO impact through the keywords in the release, et cetera. But I would always evaluate if it's, hey, we've hired so-and-so, or we've hit our 10,000th customer and that's the only news. I would do more of a targeted pitch on that.
Yep.
Just going back a couple of topics, with writing a story and pitching it to journalists.
Uh-huh.
Were you talking about writing a story in your space, or a story about what you do, what your company offers?
Market trend stories, I think, if you're putting it together, are better. Now, you would be part of it. And I think that's always, especially as a startup, don't expect, unless you have something absolutely phenomenal, that you're going to get the front page of the New York Times article. It's just, you've got to have a phenomenal team or something that's happened, or you've just gotten acquired for $1 billion, or et cetera, to get that story. But for you to be included in a story that's about a market in the New York Times would be a great thing, because you have a much higher likelihood of making that happen if you put together the right story with the right group, of compelling sort of pitch around a market.
I know we're going to be running out of time, so I just wanted to touch base on one last thing. Have you guys heard of, or are you guys using Harrow? Who uses Harrow?
One over there.
How many people have actually found it to be effective? One?
Yeah.
Metza? No. Okay. So 2 Metzas, a yes and a no. Harrow reporters, so if anyone that doesn't know what Harrow is, H-A-R, help a reporter out. These are newbies. These are from mid-tier to lower-end reporters that are trying to get a name out for themselves. So they put a story out, and then you're a member, and you see it every day. You get 2 or 3 ask in regards to, do you know anyone in this industry and stuff like that. It's a lot of work for you guys. You guys are really busy. And so to weed through all of them, it's just time consuming. So in your industry, know your reporters that will take care of you. It's a better time. It's a better use of your time instead of depending on
Harrow. And the reporters that you've identified are sort of the 3 to 5 that you really want to have relationships with. Mm-hmm. Every morning still. That's my cup of morning coffee. Yeah. I get up, I read what articles they wrote, I check in on their Twitter feeds, and I see if there's anything that I need to know that I should be reaching out. And it might just be hey, great article, no need, but that's keeping the relationship up. Most of the time I'm not contacting them, but I do want to keep up with those folks on a regular basis, because those are the folks that I'm going to be reaching out to on a regular basis. And also, sorry, to go back to your question too before, ask for introductions if you really don't know a reporter. Mm-hmm. Often our companies are coming to me saying, hey, Kate, do you know X, Y, and Z reporter? And I can reach out and say to the reporter, you really should take a look at this company, or can you grab coffee with the CEO of this company, do an introductory meeting. Friends might know it, so ask around, and if somebody else has a relationship with them, see if you can get a soft introduction. Getting social, I think we've talked a lot about
that.
In all the different areas. I think, LinkedIn, I think, is the one important thing people often do forget. And
it's a great resource. It's a great resource. The only thing that I would put, so I'm of the school of not collecting bodies. Okay? My little sister went to college her sophomore year. She had 3,000 people on her Facebook. She goes, oh my God. I go, dude, I love you. You're really all about sports, but you're not that popular. You're just not that popular. You're collecting bodies, and that is your brand. And so if anyone does anything that falls on you, your community sees that. And I'm watching what you're doing. So get rid of a couple of people. Your LinkedIn is the same thing, but now it's on a professional level. when you go to a party, just because you get a business card does not mean that you have to put them in your LinkedIn. Protect your LinkedIn. Because for me, what I love the most is that I can go to my LinkedIn and someone says, can you make the introduction? I know them, so I can. But I don't want to have someone there that I have no idea anything about them. So be very careful in regards of who you're adding in, because now you're sharing stories about your company and its growth. People are interested, they're going to be engaged, and they're going to share it to their community. But a total stranger is like, well, I don't even know what it is. I met him randomly. I don't even remember the face. It's a waste. It's a waste of your time. And also, I mean, I'm huge on brand. Hi, brandographer. Huge. I'm really, I'm mom, I'm Nana, I'm your grandma, I mean everyone, all in one, taking care of your brand. It's so important, and people take it for granted because, again, when your company gets acquired, when your product fails or doesn't fail, I go, you're still that person. You're still you. You're still the mom, the dad, the daughter. You're still that person. So protect your brand. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever you're using, protect the brand. Don't be afraid of social media, but just protect what you put out there.
Community?
Building the community.
Didn't we cover
We
this?
covered a lot. This is great. This is a good thing. We had the whole entire slide, but then it's been interjecting.
I know,
It's
as we
fabulous.
said, there's nothing linear here. It's all around. The next week, I don't think we've gotten into a whole lot, so do want to talk about that. And quickly, before I forget, afterwards, going back to media, we do have a worksheet here we didn't put on the chairs. Yep. That is basically tips for talking to the press. And so if you are doing press interviews, you can't afford media training, whatever, read through this. Yep. It's a great just sort of how to prepare yourself around that, whatever. So content these days is a great way to build your community and to get your message out there on your terms. Mm-hmm. It's not somebody else writing it, and there's all different things. That's writing your own blog. It's having an e-newsletter, it's creating infographics, it's content that can get out there and spread the word around that and really build who your brand is for your company or for yourself. And that's just going to spread, and it's a great way I think it's probably one of the best marketing tools right now. And it's a lot of times you can do it cheap or for free if you've got the time.
So we put this on the chairs in regards of, it was a speech that Bill Gates put out. And I love it. I mean, it's just going back to basics in regards of content. It's your own content. No one knows what you're doing better than you. No one is an expert better than you. I mean, you are the expert in regards to what you're doing. You can create the content, whether they're one-liners, whether they're paragraphs, whether they're blogs, whether it's a book, an ebook, etc. You are the king and queens of creating the content. Have fun with it. Don't feel like it's like, oh my God, it's just so much work. I don't have time to do it. Make the time. Make the time. Go to the beach. Grab a book, go somewhere that it's your time, like the library, wherever it is, and get a journal. Abby has one right there. Get a journal and just write. And it could be just bullet points of something, but when you're creating content, it doesn't have to be a paragraph. It could be bullet points. It could be pictures. It could be videos. It could be whatever you want. Content is content, and it's fresh content. And literally, this is one of the things where you can pay someone for SEO, but no one can beat the fact that you're creating brand new content. When you're getting bad press, nothing can eliminate bad press, but good press, good content. So constantly creating content helps you in so many different directions. But you have to create the content, and it has to be truthful.
You can often do content too that's even not, if you're not ready to talk about the specifics of what you're doing around it, there's other content you can create in terms of this just general interest. It can be associate your brand with that. Yep. So. Like recently, Convey, which was a Techstores company, did a whole sort of map of the tech community here in Boston. It really had nothing to do, with them, except they got to be known, and this spread everywhere, and all these different, news sources out there were posting their map. Yeah. And it was just sort of a general interest piece. And there's things like that you can do that is going to help build your brand.
One of the companies that I'm mentoring, she's in semi-stealth mode, and a reporter in Maryland wrote a piece, met her at a party, wrote a piece with her permission, and all the mommy blogs were like inundated, and she's like, oh my God, I'm just like, it's too much, like they're calling me, like I don't want them calling me, like, you know what, that's not a bad thing to happen, to have all these mommy blogs focusing on what you're doing. Use them to your resources. The product isn't going to be ready for a couple of years. I go, but every single time she speaks to them, I'm like, oh, well, why don't you just take one thing that they said and post it? So now you're giving them credit. Now they're excited. They're like, I go, hey, Jane, did you see? I spoke to this woman that you recommended, and she put me on her blog. She put it on her Facebook. It's a great way for them to start talking about you and promoting the buzz that will get your product out there. So when it is ready, you have an entire following.
Reciprocate too, remember that. If people are following you, follow back, especially if they're influencers, that make sure that you're following those things.
Hi.
Hi.
So my name's Adriana. This is Sarah. We're here from Flashup. It's an online website where undergrads can buy and sell study materials. Sorry. So we market to undergraduate college students right now, primarily. And I think one of the things that we've been throwing back and forth a lot is who are we, what's our brand, what's our voice. If we're marketing to college students, is it appropriate to produce content that's on the level that college students want to read? So cussing or drinking, I mean, these are things that really draw students. We right now don't go there, but I think that a lot of what we're trying to figure out is who is our voice, who is our brand, is our voice that of a college student, and how far can we go to appeal to them while still staying on the level of being professional? So if reporters come to our site, or anyone else in the media, or anyone that's not a college student comes, we don't want them to turn away because they think that we're too much.
All right, so I'm just going to use a quick little example of Gossip Girls, Dawson Creek, because I'm going to use a different demos of whoever's in the room. The language behind the scripts were high level, and they were targeting high school students and undergrads. Don't dumb us down. I go, just because you're cussing, why? A lot of young people don't cuss. And they don't cuss in front of the general public. So talk to us in a way that, yes, you could use slangs, but slangs change every quarter. So just talk to us. I feel that you saying that was like the automatic where, oh yeah, I'm dealing with undergrads, so I'm going to talk down to them. And I wouldn't want that for anyone that's around me. The individuals that are young, that are in my part of my team, individuals that I mentor, individuals that are part of my family, we're educated. And we would like to be educated by you.
I think you need to talk from your personal voice. What's your personal experience? And, I think that's going to come through. But I would stay away from, again, cussing and things that could be viewed. I think there's a way to have that voice that's, within the bounds. But
adding on to that, do you think that we should be acknowledging the fact that it does occur in college?
What?
And that lots of memes are being shared that talk about drinking. I mean, like a lot of popular things, like, everyone's seen the Facebook page, I love science, but it's not I love science, it's I effing love science. But all college students share those memes and share those messages. So how far do we get into that? Yeah.
I'm still in the no cussing.
Particularly because you're an academic company. I think that's...
You're a business. Yeah. You have to be professional at all times.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I think it's good to share.
My one sense would be you have a platform, and so you don't want to ruin that platform. You have an audience, and the more college students you attract, whatever your target audience is, you now have this threshold and this thing that you stand on that millions upon millions may read, and you don't want to lose that because you can lose that like that.
And at some point, your target audience might change.
Yep.
And that's if you've built yourself around something that's only sort of within that. So I think you need to keep it a little bit flexible.
When I was in radio, shock jocks were like the rage. They're gone now. It was the biggest thing, and pretty much they're all gone.
I just had another question about your personal brand versus your company brand, and how do you decide what to put where? And then in terms of LinkedIn, if you want to reach out to your community, how do you make sure that you're not sort of pushing too far and taking advantage of relationships while still kind of building something that's helpful and hopefully mutually beneficial?
Why do you have to be different? Why can't you just be...
Well, I mean, like if you want to post something for your company, like if you have a company page versus your own personal page, and how much of your, stuff do you put on your personal page versus company page?
Well, on your LinkedIn, though, it's the business to business. So the LinkedIn is your resume. So that way, if I'm on your company LinkedIn and I go right to the founder, I want to make sure that you're the expert that can actually talk about this. So there's synergy. For your Facebook, when you're having fun with your friends and family, that's why it makes sense to lock it down. Again, it's for friends and family, and then your business is what you're staying professional that's going to complement the LinkedIn. and the Twitter.
I keep them. I mean, I think it's separate, and I think there's an importance for everybody to have a personal brand. Those can become intertwined if you're the CEO of a company and the company and you're always with it. But having your personal brand and your company brand, because the likelihood is the company is going to go away at some point, and so making sure that you have and spend time on that as well. I think that's where you can position yourself maybe as an expert or just a good person people want to go to for the source on markets, or that you can have people can come to talk to you. All right, we are quickly running out of time here. So SEO and PR like chocolate and peanut butter. Yep. This goes where they go together. If you're going to be writing a press release, make sure that it's SEO enabled. It can have value there. What are the keywords that you need to have hyperlinked? There's at the end of this, there's a Business Wire puts out a great little sort of guide on how to SEO enable your press release. A lot of the stuff is available, so we've got the link to that at the end. Sales and marketing is too. This is probably one of the biggest downfalls I see is sales and marketing in companies don't think that they can work together, and they're always fighting one another. And really, they have to support one another. And having, and especially in larger companies, it's a little bit different. But in the smaller companies, if you have one salesperson and one marketing person, and they're never talking to each other, that's a problem. Make sense. And they should be getting together, on a regular basis and talking about, okay, so sales, your objectives are X. Marketing, how can we support you in this? And then marketing needs to push back to say, well, you're asking me to market something that you can't sell. And so there's always this, going back and forth, but without it, you could have completely different things. Again, engineering needs to come into this too. Sometimes sales is selling something that engineering can't deliver on. And so this whole important team of people actually being aware, it's very easy, even in a 5-person startup, for people to be working within silos and not communicating with one another. And that can make the job very difficult. Yep. All right, so you've launched. Now what? Not good luck. But, number one, have a plan. Yep. When you launch, already have 90, 120-day plan built out on what you're going to be doing. The worst thing you can do is launch and then go radio silent. And a lot of people do it. And they think, okay, I've launched, great. Now all the customers are coming to me and, I don't need to do it. Have a schedule. I mean, I know, okay, we're going to be doing a blog posting one a week. Who's going to be writing it? We're going to be, with Twitter and a lot of our companies that use it, I make them put together almost an editorial calendar. A lot of this stuff, companies have so much data. People are like, well, what do I tweet about? You've got so much data at your hands on what you're seeing and going on from your customers, et cetera. You can pre-schedule that stuff. This is where an interns comes great. Give them the data, put together 100 tweets for me based off of this data. I'll review it, schedule it into a system. A tweet goes out every day. It's a really sort of easy way to generate content and get that out there so that you're continuous. Know what other news events you're going to have. If you're going to have customers or, success wins, but don't go completely silent. Mm-hmm. The other thing, too, I think with reporters, I tell people is, think about your reporters, and you're going to have little bits of news that are big, but reporters are big on exclusives. They like it. They like when they get something.
Don't give it.
Well, I actually look at it a little different, where I think I try to share the wealth. So, you're going to get it this time, and you're going to get this, or if you have a piece of news, if you're lucky enough to maybe have 5 customers, you can go to a reporter and say, okay, you're not getting an exclusive on the story, but what you are getting is an exclusive customer. And give each reporter of your top 5 reporters a different customer, and they feel like they get a different angle on it.
So where we differ. This is why I love working with Kate, because
good.
When we first started, I'm like, I don't want to step on your toes. And he's like, no, I want to engage. I'm like, yes. All right, so I am, especially when you're a small company or startup, giving an exclusive is really hard, because then you're automatically, and a lot of reporters' eyes are like, well, why would they do that? I mean, we don't even know, we don't have a relationship with you, and now someone else got the story. I go, well, we don't want to write on you. Inc. magazine and Entrepreneur magazine are known for the fact that if you give it to one, the other one will not write it. Doesn't make sense. So what I do instead, which this is what I believe in, is the embargo list. So needless to say, I have 20 reporters, and they're on my embargo list. They will get the story at, let's just say, 8 o'clock in the morning. I give them 6 hours. The embargo ends.
I need to interrupt quickly. So this is her company right now.
No, it's not.
Oh, it isn't?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Not at all. This is the start of.
The start of, okay.
So basically, when I was in radio, I was part of many people's embargo list. A big story came out, boom. I knew I was going to get the story first. It was a given. A couple of weeks back, now it's probably about 8 weeks. It's probably one of my best stories ever. 2 reporters, New York Times, they had a big story. New York Times is on many people's embargoes list. 2 reporters put out the story. The embargo ended at 1 o'clock. 12:59, the story came out. At 12:30, at 12:59, the story came out. 1:30, they were both fired. Why? Why were they fired?
They broke the embargo. They broke the embargo.
They broke the embargo by 1 minute. You work for the New York Times. They were established reporters. Got fired.
How the embargo list, though? I mean, you have to build your own embargo list?
If you're a company, you build your own embargo list.
Okay. So
these are the relationships that you have with the reporters that take really good care of you. And so it's fantastic.
This takes, though, this is where the hard thing with a startup is. It takes a long time to build that trust.
Absolutely.
So
forming what we talked about at the beginning when you're forming the relationship, I go, that's why it's not exclusive. You have 5 of the reporters that you give them a press release, tell them the story, tell them there's an embargo on it until XYZ time. And then once that time runs out, their story's written. They've already interviewed people. They've gotten their quotes. They have a nice, meaty story instead of just getting it at 1 o'clock and all of a sudden, because now at 1 o'clock you can put it in the wire and it's fine. And whoever picks it up after that's great. But at least you have 5 people that are going to write good story pieces on you. You take care of them, they'll take care of you.
So this is where I think we differ a little, is if it's not a huge news story, but you have something that could be a story, I would rather go take it to a one person, really tailor it and get one really nice article versus a couple little dribs and drabs across, smaller little news stories.
Yep.
And then take that one news story to different reporters sort of within your network each time. I'll tell a reporter, listen, you got it last time. You're going to, you got to sometimes go to the other people, and I'll sort of put it out there with them on that. You kind of you need to have that relationship, but at some point, I think the one thing reporters that will get you on a reporter's blacklist is if you tell them they agree to an embargo, which some of them will, and then the embargo gets broken, and they're going to blame it on you, and it's totally outside of your hands if somebody else's it breaks the embargo. But
so before you say that, I'm going to give you the example of when that gets broken. So. There was a reporter in town that sometimes doesn't play by the rules. And what happened was that there was an embargo. And then, of course, we started getting phone calls from all these other reporters. I go, what the hell? There's an embargo. What happened? Why is it that everyone has a story? I'm like, well, what happened? The reporter took a screenshot of the embargo and said, I didn't write about it. So now we say on our embargoes, embargo to XYZ, and it cannot be published. So that way, you can't take a screenshot, you can't write about it, you can't do anything until the embargo ends. There's always a way around it. So we're trying to protect our people by making sure that we're covering all things.
Yeah. So is that just an industry standard, or is that something that you can enforce?
Good journalists will go by the rules.
Even for a small startup, as long as you have relationships in place.
That's why when you're forming the relationship, good reporters will take care of you. We follow the rules. Follow the rules.
There are certain publications that will not. TechCrunch will not honor an embargo, but the one thing is they're transparent about it, and they tell you that.
And then the follow-up to that is, you mentioned some of these big publications, and you talk about startups, and big so you can. So your initial stories, you might want to go exclusive, but does that hurt your long-term relationship with some of the?
Again, if you go with Inc., Entrepreneur won't cover you.
For that story.
I always talk.
You want to pick your battles,
This is where I go back to what can have the biggest bang for your business. If getting, a New York Times story or a TechCrunch story can, if you're a, developer-driven business, well, getting on TechCrunch actually could probably have a huge impact on your business, getting that story. And so, I would take it to them and say, you have an exclusive on this, if that can drive your, things. Versus if it's better for you to go to a wider audience because you don't have that, with that piece of news, you don't have that target audience, that one publication that's actually going to make, drive the needle on your business. And so I think you have to make, depending on what the news is, and make that decision. There's going to be some times when I'm going to say, we should do an exclusive on this, and we should go, and that's it, because that will make a big enough difference. And there are others that, a funding announcement, if it's a plain funding announcement, I would go broad and wide, because you actually have your target audiences are much greater than developers for that. You need to go to the financials press and the VC press and across the board that could then impact your future funding, because now other VCs who read these articles every single day are going to see it. And the first thing we do, VCs open VentureWire, we see who got funded. If anything looks interesting, then we put it on your ticker file if this seems to be a company you want to follow. So that is, you need to make sure with those that you do go so that you're getting to the right audience with it. Here at the end, here's a couple of things, and I guess the links probably aren't going to show up here, but we can send out a post note. These were just some tools. Forrester Research, the social marketing playbook. Actually, it's like a whole series of playbooks, and they're free, so there's all on different topics. You can go to the Forrester website and get it. Businessware, SEO tips, 50 top tools for social media monitoring, analytics management.
Pictures, it's great.
Yeah.
Take pictures.
That you could do a Google search in any of those. That one is really just like all the different potential, from YouTube to Vimeo to whatever you need to have, what you should be on. Product positioning and 5 easy steps, if you're looking for sort of a guide, step by step on how to do product positioning, that's a great one. And then I came across an article which I thought was interesting, 109 ways to make your business irresistible to the media, and he just had some really good, insightful things and kind of fun, creative tactics you could do. And afterwards, I've got cards up here. I'm happy to, people should feel free to email me or reach out, and if anyone, I'm try to be over here or at CIC or various places. I'll meet and happy to do office hours and meet with folks for 15 minutes and give feedback along the way. It's just something that I like to do. So.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much,
Any other questions,
Thank
guys?
you.